Hi guys, this is Patti Starr with Patti Starr Supernatural Research. Thank you for joining me, and I would like to remind you to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so when I do more of these little YouTubes on the paranormal, then they will alert you and you can see it firsthand. So tonight what I wanted to do is share with you some of the EVPs that I've gotten. And during investigations, there's all types of ways to catch at what I would refer to as evidence. And my favorite evidence is an EVP, which is an electronic voice phenomena. And sometimes, for me, they're more real than anything else that you can catch. But then again, you still have to be careful that you're not picking up something that might contaminate that type of evidence as well. So what I want to do tonight is talk about the cemetery. There's a favorite cemetery that I like to go to. And when you're in the cemetery, I've gotten some really interesting, again, EVPs. And I thought maybe that I would talk to you a little bit about some of the things that I've learned, some of the messages that I get from the cemetery, some of the work that we've done in the cemetery when we do get the EVPs. And also I'm going to play them for you tonight. Now, sometimes I'll play them a couple of times because I tend to get EVPs that will speak over my voice or student voices, because a lot of my EVPs over the last 20 years that I have collected was during our class field trip when I would take my students to an actual location to do investigations as part of their certification so that they will know how to use the instruments. So I'm going to, tonight I'm looking at my computer here. I've got a couple of voices that I want to play for you. For instance, my first one that I want to play for you is we were getting ready to leave a cemetery. And believe me, I've lost a lot of instruments because I did finally figure out a way not to lose my instruments, but there were times when I would go home and start looking for a camera or a tape recorder. Well, I say tape recorder, audio recorder, and then realize that I had left it at the haunted location and then have to go back and get it. So I'm packing up my equipment and I happened to look on the stone fence at this particular cemetery where we were. And I see a little recorder, and I know it's not mine. So you'll hear me in this capture, you'll hear me say, "Whose recorder is this?" Then one of my students yells out that it's mine, and I say, okay, we know whose it is. And then I ask for my meters to come back to me, because a lot of times that'll happen where I will lend out my meters so that they can learn how to use those. So I asked for my meter to come back, for them to bring back my meters. And as they're handing me my meters, I'm saying, "Thank you." And one of the ladies that is responding, she says, "Thank you." And then you'll hear a very loud "Thank you." And that is a EVP of a great capture of a spirit. So I'm going to play that one for you now, and hopefully you'll be able to hear that.
Corner over here. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, we got it. We know how to do it. What about my meter? Thank you.
So that last thank you was actually the voice of a spirit there at the cemetery. And I will tell you that at this particular cemetery that we went, we got more than one thank you. We would get many thank yous, and I've got a couple of more I'm going to play. But I want to play this one more time, and I want you to really listen right at the end. That very last thank you, that is the thank you of the spirit.
Corner over here. Yeah, Okay, we got it. We got it. We know how to do it. Not about Nonnie or his name. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know what he was saying thank you about, but you know, he joined in on the thank you. So, and then there was another thank you, and let me tell you what was happening with this thank you. We got to, we called it the Witches Cemetery, and I had taken several different classes to this cemetery, mainly because we did get really good EVPs. And we got them on a variety of recorders. Some were GE recorders, digital recorders. Some were Panasonic. I think some were, I'm just trying to think of all the different names of recorders that we had. We had a variety of recorders, but no matter what type of recorder we had, whether it be digital or analog, we tend to get really good EVPs for this particular cemetery. But what I would do with my students, anytime we would go to a cemetery, I would tell them, I want you to bring a plastic bag, kind of like your shopping bag, and we would tie that bag onto our belt loops. And what we would do when we would enter the cemetery after our prayer, what we would do is we actually would clean up, like if there were Coke cans or tissue or paper or whatever, we would clean up the cemetery before we actually would start our investigation. And this was just to show respect. And as we're doing this, we tell the spirits that are there that we want to have the place nice and clean before we start. And the place was never really junky, but there were times when there were things that needed to be picked up and put away. And then on one particular occasion, we noticed that one of the headstones had been broken and knocked off. And so we got to thinking that maybe if enough of us, I think there was 3 of us, because you know these headstones are pretty heavy. So what we did is we kind of set it up. We all kind of came together, and then we lifted it up. Like I said, it was pretty heavy, and then we just set it back down, and it kind of fit into the groove where it had been broken off, and it stayed. And so we're just kind of talking among ourselves during that. And then as I played my recorder back after I got home, it's a very, of course this voice, this EVP comes through while we're talking, but you can hear a man's voice say, "Thank you kindly." So that was another thank you that we got. Now I'm going to play it. I may have to play it 2 or 3 times for you. Over the years, I've really developed, for me, I think, an excellent ear where I can hear these voices really good, especially if you've got earphones on, you can hear it even better. But a lot of times you'll miss an EVP because it'll speak as you're speaking, and so you'll totally miss it. So I kind of started training myself early on in my earlier ghost hunting days to where I would really listen to every sound and take it apart. I also took band in high school. I was a high school band nerd. But my teacher that I had, my music teacher, was phenomenal. And he would play music. And as he would play music for us to listen to, he would have us pick out each instrument as it played. And it really made you to pay attention that, oh, okay, that's an oboe. Okay, well, that's a French horn. Okay, wait a minute. That's a clarinet. Because a lot of times when we just listen to the music, it's just all there together and we don't really pick it out. I think with my early training in music about listening to the tone and to the variations of music, I think that helped me too become really good at picking out EVPs. So I'm going to play this one, this EVP that we got at this cemetery. And of course, again, it came right after we kind of set this headstone back into place. It says, "Thank you kindly." So I'm going to play that for you. Okay, right there when I kind of pointed, it said, "Thank you kindly." I'm going to play it one more time. So I hope you heard that. But I was just so fascinated by that. The name of the cemetery, it had an unofficial name. It was called the Witches Cemetery. I've always been very fortunate. People contact me some way or another, either email or call or text or write, and they will tell me, "Ooh, you've got to go and check out this place." And that's how we found out about this little cemetery. It was right off the main road in Lexington, but it was sort of in the middle of a group of trees. So nobody really knew it was there. It was the most quaint little cemetery, and it went all the way back to the late 1800s. So it was kind of neat to be in this cemetery. And then another couple of voices that we got in this cemetery was we were talking, and some of the headstones were broken up quite a bit, and we couldn't really read them. But one EVP that we got was from a young child, and the young child called out for her Nonnie, and she goes, "Nonnie!" At first when I heard it, I thought it said Mommy, but then when I really listened to it, I realized it said Nonnie. And I learned that a German nickname for grandmother is Nonnie. So I went back to check the names on this particular cemetery, and the last name was Hull, Hull, and Keys, Keys. And then there were a few other names that were of the German descent. So, okay, again, that made sense. So I'm going to play that one, and you'll be able to hear us talking. So behind us, as we are talking, you will hear the little girls say, "Nonnie."
Here. You got something? Hold on. I'm sorry. Okay.
Right there, Nonnie. I'm going to play it one more time.
Here.
And she says, "Nonnie."
You got something? Hold on. I'm sorry.
Okay, so I thought that was kind of precious. And then another, let's see. Oh, okay. Let me see. I have two more. Now, another cemetery that I used to go to was behind a stockyard, and it was sometimes when we go to this cemetery, we had to be very careful because it was a stockyard, not too far from it. So if they were having sales, then during the night, before the sales, it would be full of the cattle, and they would all be mooing and making sounds, and we wouldn't be able to do an EVP session. But on this particular night, they were not having any sales, so I didn't have to worry about hearing the cattle, the cows, mooing out. So we were just kind of walking around a couple of the cemeteries that, a couple of the headstones that I saw. One was of a child, and on this particular EVP that I want to play for you, you will be able to hear a very small, kind of quick "Mama," and I'm going to play that one for you. Mama?
Yeah.
Okay, right there. And it's kind of "Mama." I'm going to play it one more time. And there's a lot of static. It's got a shh, 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 and then I say something, and then it's "Mama." Right there, Mama. And so on this next one, though, you're going to hear me get pretty excited. I was in the same cemetery, and I was actually doing a segment for our TV station every October. We had 4 TV stations, 18, 27, 56. That's 3. Well, anyway, and so a lot of times at Halloween, they would call me and say, can we do a Halloween ghost something tonight, because and of course it would be like, who you gonna call, those kind of things that I would get. So on this particular night, I had one of the TV crews there, and we were walking around to see if we could get something, and the meter goes off. Now, I always take my meters. A lot of times when I'm outside, my meters won't go off because there will not be any outside influence. In other words, they won't be an electrical pole, or there won't be any kind of wiring going across. And so, but I do like to take and make sure that my meter is. I like the cell sensor meter. I like to make sure it's on. Because believe it or not, a lot of times before I get an EVP, sometimes my meters will go off. And I want to make this kind of a regular thing. I have so many EVPs. I want to make a few of these YouTubes just on the EVPs. And a lot of times you're going to hear the meters go off before I get the EVP. And I like to have that kind of validation. So on this one, you're going to hear the meter go off, and then you'll hear me talking. And then before the EVP session is finished, you'll hear Save Me. So I'm going to play that one.
Okay. Oh my goodness. He was a baby. June 9th, 1939. October 6th, 1939. Oh my gosh. This is so awesome. Neil, my meter's going off. This has never happened before, not with this meter. Have y'all ever had this meter to go off out here? I mean, there's no electrical wiring or anything around that can interfere.
Okay, right at the end when I finished talking about that the meter, I'd never had the meter go off like that, you'll hear Save Me. And then you hear the meter one more time go off after it says Save Me. So I'm going to go just to the center of this. I'm going to start it, go to the center, and then you'll hear me just say it's never gone off like that before, and then you'll hear Save Me. And then it goes beep beep again, the meter picking up that energy.
This has never happened before, not with this meter. Have y'all ever had this meter to go off out here? I mean, there's no electrical wiring or anything around that can interfere.
Save Me. Now on this particular one, you may have to turn up the volume on that one, but it definitely was worth getting that. And I've always been really lucky anytime I've ever had where I've done, a news special right around October. For years and years and years, I've done so many of them, especially in Lexington where I've lived. It's just always so pleasing for, as they're filming me for that segment, it's always so very, I'm always so honored that the spirits will come through, and we'll either get a shadow person, we'll either get an EVP, or something happens. Sometimes the equipment that the camera people are using will falter and cut off and shut down. We lose lighting. Anytime we're in a haunted location, whether it be outside in a cemetery, on a playground, inside a haunted location. So I've always been really blessed that when I've had the media out, they've always come through. And so what I do is before I start the investigation, we always do a prayer. Sometimes that's not recorded or on the news clip itself, but then I always ask the sweet spirits to come forth and help us get evidence to prove that they exist. And they do. They really come through and they do help. Of course, I can't ever really prove that from this evidence there are ghosts or spirits that exist. But I do like getting the evidence, and I do love sharing it. And so at this point, you can draw your own conclusion. So if you enjoyed this, I'm really planning on doing a lot more indoor, outdoor, sharing some more of these EVPs, kind of explaining to you what happened before we got them, how the meters kind of validated and would go off sometimes before and after an EVP. I think the next one I'm going to do is when I'm dowsing with my dowsing rods. I always make sure that I'm recording with my recorder, because sometimes the dowsing rods will answer in a yes or positive reaction, and then I'll get like a yes. So not only did the dowsing rods answer a yes, then we get an EVP that answers yes. And then once I had an EMF meter in my jacket or on my vest, and the meter went off. So my dowsing rod said yes, then I got an EVP that said yes, and then my meter went meet, 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 meet. So a lot of times you can take all of that, because it's so spontaneous and it kind of happens together. That's some really, for me, that's some really good, positive and solid evidence. Again, it's not proof, but it is some pretty good evidence. So I hope you enjoyed this little segment. Let me know. Please make any suggestions of what you might want to hear. Or you can comment on the EVPs that you did actually get to hear. And I do blog a lot of this. So if you check my blog, it's pattystar.com. Check the blog there. And you'll be able to read about some of these EVPs as well and comment on that. So I appreciate you being with me here. Again, if you will just click on that like and subscribe and that bell icon. I really want to do so many more of these. I'm having so much fun, and I appreciate everybody that joins me. So you guys have a great day. Thank you.